explain why she hasn't been speaking here today. She is our councillor for this ward and works for a New South Wales Government Department in her other job, or in her job, and she's been strongly advised by the New South Wales Government Department not to speak at this rally today. Makes you wonder what they're afraid of. Our next speaker is Gary Keane, who's the Southern Branch Secretary of the Maritime Union of Australia, and familiar to us all.
Some of the points the other speakers have touched on. One is that we absolutely congratulate the Save Our Ports Committee, who are a community-based crowd, and I thank Vicky for her comments about the Maritime Union of Australia members getting behind us, and we will get behind this, but it's not the unions running this. This is the community is out there, the community organised this, and I congratulate them. It's sensational, and it shows the heart and soul of what Port Kembla is. Anybody who's been around here for more than 15 minutes knows that the history of this port is outstanding, both for its community, its union, and its economic development over all of the years. We had mentioned of the Dalfram dispute that was probably one of the great economic, community, but union strikes and stoppages in Australia's history. And that entire strike, if anybody ever gets a chance to read the history of the Dalfram dispute, and Sandra Perez is here today, who was working on trying to get out a film on that on the Dalfram dispute. It was one of the great moments in Australian union history, and it was a great moment in the history of the Illawarra because it was the communities that came out and supported 400 wharfies that were on strike for an 8-week period right across Christmas. The port owners, or the port at the time, declared that if they didn't work the Dalfram, they weren't going to work any ship. So what happened from that dispute was that they shut down the steelworks, and they put 4,000 steelworkers out of a job across the Christmas period, expecting that to put all the pressure back onto the wharfies to have to go back to work. And you know what they did? All of those people were coming down to the wharfies picket line with food, with donations. It was the community that kept that going, and the community drove it then, and the community will drive it now. The other thing I just wanted to mention was the economics of this, and the petition that the member for Wollongong's getting up to take before the Parliament to discuss again. I just encourage that we stretch it out a little bit to make sure that we're incorporating both ports. The Port of Sydney, they've done a year's study, and Morgan Stanley are obviously behind the study on where they were going to go and what they were going to do and how they were going to privatise it. And when you ask them the questions, they've got the answers for what the Port of Sydney they think is going to be like. We had a meeting with the Treasurer during the week, and I must admit the Maritime Unions combined went up and met with the Treasurer, and he gave us a good hearing, and he sat there and he went through and he's given us some assurances on industrial and that we'll look after our members and all that. At the end of that, we said to him, mate, that's all well and good, but you do realise there's a community assembly going on in Port Kembla on Sunday afternoon, where the community will let you know that we don't want you to privatise our port. We don't want you to privatise Sydney Port. We don't think it's economically sane to privatise both of those ports, which together bring in $200 million a year. And you're going to let it go for $2 billion, maybe $2.5 billion for 99 years? It pays for itself in 15. The rest is clear profit. It's not a bad little earner. The other thing with it is that there's no structure in it. We asked them about what you're going to do for, like where this goes in Kembla, what it does in Kembla. Nobody's got the answers yet. And our mate from the Chamber of Commerce over here hit on it earlier. The reason they don't have any answers yet was because Kembla was thrown in as an afterthought. Where they've done the study through Sydney and they've done the study and they know what they're doing, somebody from Morgan Stanley or somewhere else said, listen, we might not get to the mark on what we want here because there's a port just down the road that could be in competition. And they've gone, oh, that's no good, hang on, we'll throw that into the mix and we'll throw it in as a privatised port as well. And they don't have the answers for any of the stuff that we're asking about in Port Kembla because they've thrown it into the mix at the tail end. And exactly as was said, they've treated Illawarra that way from the state government level consistently down here. You've got probably a mile just across this harbour over here where you've got tailings from, well, it's not tailings, it's fill from Barangaroo, where they're doing the development up in Sydney. It was all going to be dumped down here. We were guaranteed it's all clean, it's all come down. First load, the first 15,000 tonne out of a 600,000 tonne, 45 load projected amount. They find asbestos sitting in it. We've had blokes working in that for 7 days with no protective gear, nothing else, because we were told this is asbestos we're talking about. The very name of it scares, excuse the French, but scares the shit out of us. We've had over 100 cases of asbestosis just out of the wharfies in Australia. And it's, they'll tell us, oh look, it's not a problem, it's only a little amount, it's only a little bit. And there's not much there, and it's bonded, and it can't really go into the air unless you're crushing it. We've got a 15-tonne front-end loader driving over the top of this stuff. If that doesn't crush it, it's the toughest asbestos in history. Now that's dumped right there, within 500, maybe 800 metres of the entrance to the train station that every kid, every adult that's coming in and out of that station is walking past. We had, what, 50, 60 knot winds come through here on a Friday afternoon and blew it directly in that way.
The community support and the Save Our Port committee is meeting regularly. I know they look forward to any assistance they could get. We'll be there to give any assistance that we can. I know the other maritime unions are the same. All I can say is it's a fight to be had. Kembla's had a history of fighting.
Looking real good. It's looking good.
Mate, I'll be there.
Yeah, you sure?
Always.
No sleep?
No,
Oh,
no sleep.
Johnny's still going.